It was supposed to be a quiet, uneventful flight from Los Angeles to New York. A late evening departure, dim cabin lights, tired passengers settling into their seats, the kind of atmosphere where everyone just wanted to sleep or watch a movie in peace. Steven Seagal boarded last, wearing a simple black jacket, dark glasses, and a calm, collected expression. No entourage, no announcement, no one asking for photos. Just a man who preferred silence. Most people didn't even notice him, and Seagal liked it that way. He placed his bag overhead, nodded politely to the flight attendants, and took his seat near the middle of the plane, quiet, humble, almost invisible. But a few rows behind him sat a man who was anything but invisible. A bulky passenger with reddish cheeks, glassy eyes, and a voice way too loud for a plane cabin. He had already drained too many bottles of whiskey before the rest of the passengers had even taken their seats. His laughter echoed through the aisle, mixed with the sound of crinkling snack bags and complaints about small airplanes and slow boarding. Flight attendants gave him polite warnings, but he brushed them off with dismissive waves. When the plane finally finished boarding, the man stumbled out of his row to shove his backpack into the overhead bin. In the process, he bumped hard into Steven Seagal's shoulder. Seagal glanced up calmly, not angry, not even surprised, just acknowledging what happened. But the passenger scowled, like he was the one who'd been wronged. "Watch where you're sitting, man," the passenger muttered loudly. Seagal simply gave a small nod. No problem. But the man wasn't done. He narrowed his eyes, sizing Seagal up. The black jacket, the calm posture, the quiet nature. To him, it looked like someone trying to act tough, without saying a word. "Oh great," the man scoffed. "One of those guys. Thinks he's some kind of action hero." A few passengers looked up awkwardly. Seagal didn't respond. His training taught him that silence avoids problems and prevents unnecessary trouble. But the drunk passenger hated being ignored. He leaned closer, waving a hand in front of Seagal's face. "Hey, old man, you deaf or just rude?" Seagal slowly removed his glasses, his calm eyes meeting the man's. That was the moment the entire plane felt a shift. The engines hummed steadily as the plane taxied toward the runway, but inside the cabin, tension was already beginning to simmer. Flight attendants moved through the aisle performing final checks, reminding passengers to buckle up, stow devices, and prepare for takeoff. Most people complied without a word, except one. The same loud passenger who had already made himself known now sat half-twisted in his seat, one leg sticking into the aisle, grumbling under his breath. He kept glaring towards Steven Seagal, as if Seagal had committed a personal offense simply by existing too quietly. The seatbelt sign chimed. Ding. Everyone clicked their buckles. Everyone except him. A flight attendant approached with a practiced smile. "Sir, I need you to fasten your seatbelt." He smirked. "I will, when I feel like it." "Sir, we need it fastened now," she insisted, lowering her voice. "Relax," he slurred. "It's not like we're crashing." Passengers exchanged uneasy glances. The attendant tried a softer approach, but the man waved her away and instead leaned forward again to stare at Seagal. "You know," he said loudly, "guys like you always sit there pretending to be quiet, like you're meditating or something." He uncapped yet another mini whiskey bottle he had stashed. "But deep down, you're all the same, trying to look cool." Seagal didn't react. His breathing was steady, body still, mind calm, the exact opposite of the man behind him. The drunk passenger clicked his tongue. "What? You too good to talk." Seagal slowly turned his head, looked at the man for one quiet second, then looked away. No anger, no irritation, just silence. This only made the man's temper rise. "Oh, I get it," the man laughed. "You're one of those mystical karate types, huh? Gonna give me some Zen nonsense if I ask you a question." The couple across the aisle shifted uncomfortably. A woman whispered, "Why is he picking a fight?" Her husband shook his head. "He has no idea who he's talking to." The attendant returned, more serious now. "Sir, this is your final warning. Buckle your seatbelt or we cannot take off. He huffed. Fine. He jerked the belt across his lap and clicked it in exaggeratedly loud. But instead of stopping, he leaned out from his row and shouted toward Seagal once again. Hey, you hear me talking to you, big guy? A mother too rose up, covered her child's ears. People were filming now, phones tilted just enough to capture the rising drama. Seagal finally spoke, his voice quiet but firm. Sir, enjoy your flight. Don't disturb the passengers. That should have ended it. But instead, it poured gasoline on the fire. Oh wow, look at this guy. The passenger mocked loudly, raising his voice so the whole cabin could hear. Tells me what to do like he's some old action star. He laughed so loudly the overhead bins rattled. Seagal turned away again, refusing to engage. That's when the passenger unbuckled his seatbelt again and stood up even though the plane was already accelerating for takeoff. Passengers gasped. The flight attendants rushed toward him, whisper yelling for him to sit down. But he didn't care. He staggered into the aisle, swaying as the plane jolted. The attendants struggled to keep him steady, but he kept pushing past them, insisting he needed to talk to that rude guy. His finger jabbed the air in Seagal's direction. You, he shouted. Stand up and say something. What are you scared? Seagal didn't move, didn't blink, didn't even turn his head. Sir, sit down now, the attendant demanded, her voice panicked. But the drunk man wasn't listening. He kept ranting, face red, spit flying as he barked insults. This old man thinks he's better than me. Look at him, acting all peaceful like he's some monk or whatever. The entire cabin vibrated with embarrassment and fear. Finally, after a struggle, two attendants pushed him back into his seat and buckled him in forcefully. Stay seated, one of them said sharply. Do not get up again. He glared at her, then at Seagal, humiliation and fury mixing in his eyes. Oh, I'll stay seated, he muttered darkly. But we'll settle this later, tough guy. For the first time, Seagal's jaw tightened, subtly, almost imperceptibly. Only those paying attention could sense it. The storm approaching. The plane finally lifted off the ground. But everyone knew the real turbulence was still ahead. The plane had reached cruising altitude, but inside the cabin, nobody felt settled. People were stiff in their seats, eyes shifting nervously toward the troublemaker several rows behind Steven Seagal. It was like everyone was waiting for the next explosion, and they all knew it was coming. The loud passenger sat slumped in his seat, arms crossed tightly like a sulking child. But his eyes, bloodshot and restless, kept drifting forward, always landing on Seagal's calm silhouette. Even from behind, the sight of Seagal's broad shoulders and stillness bothered him. It was as if the very existence of someone so collected made his drunken ego itch. A flight attendant approached quietly. Sir, can I get you some water? She asked, hoping hydration would help mellow him out. He gave her a twisted grin. Unless that water comes in a bottle wrapped in whiskey, no thanks. She sighed. We cannot serve you any more alcohol. He rolled his eyes dramatically. Figures. This whole plane is full of sensitive people. A couple across from him exchanged a look. Sensitive wasn't the word they'd use. Terrified was closer. He leaned forward again, peeking between seats to locate Seagal. When he spotted him, peacefully reading the safety card like a normal passenger, the man muttered under his breath, Look at him, acting like he's King Zen or something. A teenager too rose up, whispered to his sister, Dude, he seriously doesn't know who Steven Seagal is? His sister shook her head. If he did, he'd be sitting quietly. But ignorance is a dangerous fuel, and the drunk man's tank was full. 30 minutes later, after the usual clatter of drink carts and safety reminders, the tension returned like a shadow. The passenger kept grumbling, shifting, bumping knees, complaining about everything from legroom to the cheap snacks. But every rant eventually circled back to Seagal. He thinks he's special, he muttered loudly. He thinks he can ignore me. I hate people who act like that. A soft voice spoke from the seat beside him, a middle-aged man in glasses. Sir, Maybe you should let it go, he suggested gently. It's a long flight. No need for problems. The drunk man turned to him sharply. Did I ask you? The passenger shrank back, intimidated. Then, the man leaned into the aisle again and raised his voice. Hey, you hear me, old man? I'm talking to you. Seagal didn't turn. His eyes remained on the safety card, but everyone could feel it. His patience was thinning. Not anger, not fear, just quiet calculation. A man deciding how far he allowed disrespect to go before stepping in. A flight attendant hurried over. Sir, you must stay seated. You're disturbing the cabin. He smiled tightly. I'm just talking. Freedom of speech. Ever heard of it? She kept her tone controlled, but her eyes pleaded. Please, don't escalate things. He brushed her off. Tell him not to escalate things. The attendant blinked. Sir, he hasn't said a word. Exactly, the drunk man barked. He thinks he's better than us. A few passengers groaned. Someone in the back whispered, Bro, he's literally just sitting. Another 20 minutes passed. The cabin lights dimmed for a quiet evening flight, but the energy remained electric, the kind of tension that makes your stomach tight. Seagal closed the safety card, placed it back in the seat pocket, and folded his hands calmly. For a moment, everything is silent. Then, click, the troublemaker unbuckled his seatbelt again. Passengers gasped. A woman said, Oh no, not again. The man stood, wobbled, grabbed the seatbacks to steady himself, and began shuffling down the aisle toward Seagal. Flight attendants sprinted from both ends. Sir, sit down. You cannot be in the aisle. He ignored all of them. Every step he took felt like nails dragging across the cabin's calm. He reached Seagal's row. Seagal looked up, not annoyed, not afraid, just aware. The man pointed a shaky finger at him. You think you can sit there ignoring me like some master? You think you're tough? Let's see how tough you really are. Passengers were filming openly now, not even pretending to hide it. A man whispered, This is about to get bad. A woman whispered back, He's picking a fight with the wrong person. The drunk man grabbed the top of Seagal's seat, leaning over him aggressively. Stand up, he slurred. Stand up and say something. Come on, let's see the big man talk. Seagal didn't move. Sit down, Seagal said, voice low, almost too calm. The drunk man scoffed. Or what? You gonna karate chop me with your old man hands? Seagal inhaled deeply. Passengers held their breath. The drunk man leaned even closer. You're scared. I can see it. Scared to look weak in front of everyone. Scared to. Before he could finish, a flight attendant grabbed his arm. Sir, enough. He jerked away violently, shouting, Don't touch me. Gasps filled the cabin. A baby started crying. A couple covered their faces. Seagal still hadn't moved. The drunk man glared at him one more time and hissed. Don't think this is over. I'll deal with you when we land. He staggered back toward his seat, fuming. As he sat, he spat out the words. You're nothing. Just some washed-up old guy pretending to be strong. Somewhere in front of him, a man whispered. He has no idea, because at that very moment, Steven Seagal finally shifted in his seat, a sign that the storm was coming, and the entire plane knew it. The cabin lights glowed in a soft amber hue, giving the illusion of calm, but no one felt calm anymore. Every passenger had one earbud out, one eye half open, pretending to watch movies while actually watching the drunk man 2 rows behind Steven Seagal. He sat there breathing heavily, arms crossed, face twisted with bitterness. The attendants had warned him multiple times, but warnings meant nothing to someone who thought the world owed him something. And now, in his intoxicated mind, Steven Seagal had become his personal enemy, simply because Seagal refused to entertain his nonsense. The plane hummed softly through the sky. People prayed the man would fall asleep. But trouble never sleeps, especially when it's drunk. The build-up. 15 minutes passed. Seagal remained motionless, eyes closed, hands resting gently on his lap. Anyone else would have looked asleep, but there was something about Seagal's stillness that felt deliberate, like his mind was sharpened, not resting. Meanwhile, the noisy passenger shifted again and again, unable to sit still. His whispers grew louder, angrier, acting like he's some kind of monk, stupid old man. The woman next to him had had enough. "Sir, please. People are trying to relax." He leaned toward her with a smirk. "Lady, relax? With that guy on the plane acting all mysterious?" He started it. She blinked. "He didn't do anything." "That's the problem," the man blurted. "People like him think they're above everyone. Watch. Next time he gets up, he's going to do some weird ninja move." She sighed and turned away. But the man wasn't done. He slowly stood again. Not violently this time. Not loudly. But with a strange, determined focus. As if he'd spent hours thinking about what to do next. As if he felt he had to prove something. The attendants saw him instantly. "Sir, you cannot stand." He raised a hand sharply. "I just need to stretch. Calm down." But they knew. Everyone knew. He wasn't stretching anything. He began walking towards Seagal again. The teenagers filming whispered excitedly. "Oh no, he's going back. This dude is suicidal." The line gets crossed. He approached Seagal's row and placed one hand on the headrest in front of Seagal, gripping it like a handle, leaning in. Seagal opened his eyes slowly, almost like he sensed the man before he heard him. The drunk man sneered. "You think you're special?" Seagal stayed quiet. "You think sitting still makes you tough?" The man barked. Seagal didn't blink. Anger flared in the drunk man's eyes. "Say something. Quit ignoring me." A flight attendant rushed over again. "Sir, please sit down." He shoved her aside. He didn't hit her. But pushing a flight attendant is crossing a line so clearly written even drunkenness can't excuse it. Gasps filled the cabin. Someone screamed. A man shouted, "Hey, back off." The drunk passenger didn't care. His tunnel vision was locked on Steven Seagal. He reached forward and grabbed Seagal's shoulder. Even the engines seemed to quiet at that moment. Seagal didn't move, didn't flinch. The grip on his shoulder might as well have been a mosquito landing on a rock. "Get up," the man hissed. "I'm not asking anymore." People held their breath. Cameras zoomed in. The woman behind the drunk man whispered, "He has no idea. He really has no idea who that is." But the drunk passenger was committed now, too deep in to back out. His pride had become a leash dragging him into disaster. He tightened his grip on Seagal's shoulder. "I said." Seagal finally moved. Just one motion. Slow, controlled, precise. He placed his hand over the drunk man's hand. Not to yank it off, not to twist it, not to hurt him. Just to hold it. The drunk man froze. Because Seagal's touch wasn't violent. But it carried weight. A strange, terrifying weight. The kind that tells you instantly, this man is dangerous without trying. Seagal turned his head slightly, eyes locking onto the drunk man's trembling ones. And in a calm voice that felt colder than the airplane AC, he said, "Sit down." The drunk man's breath hitched. Something inside him faltered. But his ego refused to die. "You think you can tell me what to?" That's when it happened. From behind, a voice pierced the tension. "Oh my God, that's Steven Seagal." The whisper spread like a spark on dry grass. Row after row, people gasped. "Steven Seagal? No way. Is it really him?" "Bro, the drunk guy is dead." The drunk man blinked, confused. "What? Who?" The woman several rows back stood up slightly. "That man you're harassing is an action legend. A martial arts master. Steven Seagal." The drunk man's face turned pale. Seagal's eyes didn't leave him. Passengers started murmuring louder. "That's Steven Seagal. Sit down, idiot. Do you want to die on a plane? He's literally a black belt in real life." The drunk man began shaking. "Wait, what? No, that can't." But Seagal's stare confirmed the truth. The color drained completely from the man's face. People were recording. People were whispering. People were praying for the man's safety. Because the storm hadn't hit yet. But everyone knew it was coming. The air inside the cabin thickened, not with noise, but with anticipation. You could almost hear people's hearts beating, cameras recording, breath being held. Everyone knew the drunk passenger had stepped into territory far beyond stupidity. He had stepped into Steven Seagal's space. And Seagal wasn't a man known for second warnings. The drunk man pulled his hand back slowly, as if burning himself on a stove he didn't realize was hot. His eyes darted around the cabin, watching dozens of phones pointed at him, recording his humiliation in HD. Why didn't anyone tell me?" he muttered. The woman behind him whispered under her breath. "Because everyone assumed you weren't insane." He swallowed hard. Pride and fear wrestled inside him. Fear was winning, but pride wasn't letting him retreat just yet. "I didn't know it was him," he blabbered nervously. He looked older in person. "How was I supposed to?" Seagal finally stood up. And that changed everything. Seagal rises. The movement was smooth, effortless, almost silent. But the effect was seismic. Steven Seagal wasn't huge because of Hollywood lighting. He was genuinely massive, a towering presence, broad shoulders, long arms, and a stillness that felt predatory instead of peaceful. The drunk man staggered backwards instinctively. Somewhere behind them, a teenager whispered, "Oh, he's done." Bro activated the final boss. "I'd rather jump out of the plane." Seagal adjusted his sleeves calmly, like someone preparing to wash their hands, not someone preparing for a fight. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't change his posture. Yet every molecule of air around him shifted. He looked at the drunk man and said, barely above a whisper, "You put your hand on me." The drunk man's legs weakened. "I didn't. I did, but you pushed a flight attendant." I didn't mean to. You threatened people." "I didn't. And you disturbed everyone on this plane." There was no anger in Seagal's tone, just facts, delivered like a judge announcing a sentence. The drunk man began trembling. I'm sorry. I was drunk. I messed up. I'm sorry, okay." Seagal tilted his head slightly. "You think that's enough?" The man nodded frantically. Yes, sir. Please." But Seagal didn't step back. He stepped forward, and the drunk man froze like prey cornered by a predator. The final mistake. Most people would have backed down, sat down, apologized, and prayed for forgiveness. But not this man. Humiliation can push people into stupidity. And drunk humiliation? That's a whole new level. Trying to save face, the man lifted his hand slightly, almost like he wanted to prove he wasn't scared. "Don't come closer, man." I said I'm sorry. Seagal blinked slowly. "You're threatening me now?" No, I'm not threatening." "You lifted your hand." "It's not like that." "You lifted your hand at me." Seagal repeated, firmer. The man panicked. "I am warning you." Gasps filled the cabin. Did he really just warn Steven Seagal? 2 rows back, someone whispered. He just dug his own grave. The flight attendants tried to step between them, but Seagal held up a single hand, not touching anyone, just gesturing. "It's all right." No one challenged him. Not the attendants. Not the passengers. No one. Seagal looked the drunk man dead in the eyes. "You want me to stop?" The man nodded rapidly, tears forming. "Then sit down." I'm trying, but you're." "Sit down." Seagal moved. Not fast. Not explosive. Not dramatic. Just precise. He placed his hand lightly, unbelievably lightly, on the drunk man's wrist, and the man's knees buckled instantly. A cry escaped him, high-pitched and pathetic. What are you?" "I can't, it hurts." Seagal wasn't twisting. He wasn't squeezing. He wasn't even pulling. He was simply holding the wrist in a way that shut down the man's balance and strength, the kind of joint control only extremely trained martial artists understand. The man collapsed backward into his seat helplessly. His face turned red, then white, then red again. Passengers murmured in awe. What did he do? Bro just touched him. That was Aikido stuff right there. He folded him like laundry. Seagal leaned down, voice low. "This is your last chance. Sit still." The man nodded repeatedly, tears leaking from his eyes. I will. I swear. Please don't touch me again." Seagal released his wrist slowly. and the man didn't move an inch, not even to breathe properly. He was frozen, not by force, but by fear. Seagal stood straight again and adjusted his jacket with the same calm he had before the confrontation. The cabin exhaled collectively. One woman began clapping softly, then another, then the entire cabin. A wave of applause filled the plane. "Thank you, Mr. Seagal. You saved us." "Legend. Bro, that was crazy." Seagal didn't smile. He didn't bow. He didn't respond. He simply returned to his seat and closed his eyes again, as if nothing had happened, as if he hadn't just ended a crisis without even breaking a sweat. The plane was silent for a long moment after Steven Seagal sat back down. Silent, not out of fear, but out of disbelief. People stared at him the way passengers stare after a turbulence drop, wide-eyed, grateful, and still catching their breath. Then, slowly, the whispers began. "That was insane. He literally touched him once and folded him like a chair. That's Steven Seagal. What did that guy expect?" The flight attendants gathered near the front, speaking in hushed tones. One of them, the younger woman who had been shoved earlier, looked shaken but relieved. She kept glancing at Seagal as if watching a guardian angel quietly recharge in economy class. And meanwhile, the drunk passenger sat frozen. His hands were on his lap, his knees together, back straight, eyes forward. Absolute obedience. He didn't dare breathe too loudly. But humiliation burns. And eventually, humiliation becomes something else, shame. His lips trembled. His eyes glossed over. You could tell reality had hit him like a falling suitcase. "Oh God," he whispered, burying his face in his hands. "What did I do?" The woman beside him shifted carefully, whispering, "You picked a fight with him." "Who?" he croaked. She stared at him, baffled. "Steven Seagal." The man's head shot up like he'd been electrocuted. "What? No. No way. That can't be him. He looks different." Flying economy wasn't enough of a hint, she muttered. He swallowed hard. His whole face changed, from angry drunk to terrified regretful child. He peeked over the seat at Seagal, who still sat calmly, eyes closed, breathing slowly, as if meditating. "Is he mad at me?" the drunk man whispered. The woman snorted. "Mad? He put you in a wrist lock without even trying. Trust me, if he was mad, you wouldn't be talking right now." Around them, passengers recorded TikTok videos, narrating in excitement. "Guys, you won't believe this. Steven Seagal just annihilated a drunk guy with one move. Plane fight gone wrong. Guy fights Seagal. Don't be this stupid. Comment where you're watching this from. This is unreal." The engagement hook was exploding live on the plane. The captain intervenes. 20 minutes later, the captain himself walked into the cabin. Not because he wanted to. The situation forced him to. Passengers straightened up. "Sir," the captain said professionally, looking at the drunk man. "We have crew reports and multiple passenger reports that you caused a disturbance, made threats, and put hands on another passenger." The drunk man pointed frantically at Seagal, but I didn't know it was him. The captain blinked. Slowly. "That doesn't help you," he said. "Please," the man begged. "Don't arrest me. Don't put me on a no-fly list." "I wasn't thinking." "You weren't thinking because you were drunk," the captain replied calmly. "And because you didn't control yourself." Then the captain turned to Seagal. "Mr. Seagal, do you wish to press charges?" The plane collectively inhaled. The drunk man turned pale, shaking his head desperately. Please no. Please, I'm begging you." Seagal opened his eyes slowly, almost reluctantly, like a man waking from a peaceful nap. His voice was calm, steady, balanced. "I don't want him arrested." A soft murmur rippled across the plane. "But," Seagal continued, "he needs to apologize to this entire cabin. He put them at risk. Not just me." The captain nodded respectfully. "Fair enough. Sir." All cameras pointed at the drunk man. His lips trembled. I'm sorry," he stammered. "To everyone. I shouldn't have yelled. I shouldn't have pushed anybody. And I definitely shouldn't have touched Mr. Seagal." Someone in the back yelled, "Best apology I've heard this year." Another added, "You almost got folded twice, bro." Even Seagal cracked the faintest hint of a smile. The captain nodded. "Thank you, Mr. Seagal. We'll continue the flight." The aftermath. The flight resumed. Boxes of free snacks were handed out. People whispered excitedly. The energy was buzzing like a stadium after a knockout. But the big moment came an hour later when Wi-Fi returned. The videos from the plane hit social media instantly. Within minutes. 500K views. 1 million. 2.4 million. Passenger tries fighting Steven Seagal. Big mistake. Dominated hashtags. Comments exploded. Bro challenged a real-life final boss. Steven Seagal still got the magic. That wrist lock was cleaner than my whole life. Where are you watching from? I'm seeing this viral clip from Dubai. The plane didn't just experience a moment. It witnessed a global event. The drunk man, seeing the videos going viral, slumped into his seat again. "Please tell me, this won't ruin my life." Seagal looked at him, voice low but wise. "Your life isn't ruined. But let this teach you something." He leaned in slightly. "Respect people. Any people. Big or small. Quiet or loud. You don't know who you're dealing with." The man nodded slowly. It was the most teachable moment of his life. And Seagal delivered it without throwing a punch. The plane finally touched down, wheels kissing the tarmac like a sigh of relief. Passengers exhaled, stretched, and whispered among themselves, still replaying what had happened in disbelief. What began as a routine flight had transformed into a legendary story, one that would travel far beyond the cabin walls. The drunk man sat frozen, head in hands, sweating profusely, fully aware that the internet would soon make him infamous. Flight attendants escorted him to a seat closer to the front, keeping a careful eye on him. Airport security was already notified and waiting at the gate. The reality of consequences finally sank in. Meanwhile, Seagal remained calm, almost serene. He didn't gloat. He didn't bask in the chaos. He simply moved with the quiet confidence of a man who knew the power of restraint. Passengers approached him cautiously, phones in hand, asking for photos and autographs. Some laughed nervously, still in awe of the display they had just witnessed. Others were visibly shaken, still processing how easily disaster could have unfolded and how effortlessly Seagal had defused it. One woman asked, almost in awe, "Mr. Seagal, how did you stay so calm? How did you do that?" He smiled faintly. His voice was soft but firm. Real strength isn't about hitting first. It's about knowing when to act and when to stay calm. Anyone can throw a punch. Not everyone can control themselves or the situation. Passengers nodded, many recording the encounter on their phones. Already, snippets of the footage were being uploaded to TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram. Within minutes, the hashtag Seagal plane fight began trending worldwide. Comments poured in. "Absolute legend. One hand, one move, and the guy's done." Steven Seagal didn't just win a fight. He taught the world restraint. Where are you watching this from? I'm streaming it from Manila. Comment your city. Everyone needs to see this story. Even news outlets started picking up the viral clip, framing it as a modern lesson in calm authority. The man who had tried to fight Seagal became an internet cautionary tale, his face and mistakes replayed endlessly. But Seagal's response became the real headline. Calm, composed, and in complete control. The viral message. Seagal's handling of the situation sparked a global conversation. People shared the story, emphasizing not the fight itself but the discipline, patience, and wisdom he had displayed. Social media exploded with commentary. "We need more people like him, able to stop chaos without creating it. Imagine if everyone responded like this instead of escalating." Respect isn't given, it's earned through composure. And everywhere, the engagement flowed. Fans typed their locations, commented, and shared their personal stories of witnessing disrespect, aggression, or moments requiring patience. The final lessons. Before leaving the airport, Seagal made one final statement. Violence is easy. Restraint is hard. Respect everyone, even those who provoke you. Life will test you, but staying calm is always your greatest power. Passengers who had filmed the entire ordeal now replayed the lessons in their minds. Restraint, self-control, awareness. It wasn't just a story of a drunk passenger being embarrassed. It was a lesson in dignity, humility, and authority without arrogance. The man who had tried to fight him? He faced airport consequences, a stern warning, and hours of embarrassment. But more importantly, he had witnessed firsthand the true meaning of strength and the devastating gap between anger and mastery. The call to action. The video continued to climb views, reaching millions worldwide. Audiences commented their support for Seagal's calm handling and shared their awe at how effortlessly he neutralized the situation without violence. And for every viewer, there was one simple takeaway. Real power isn't in your fists. It's in your patience, your control, and your respect for others. Engagement CTA for the audience. If you believe respect and self-control are stronger than anger, type respect in the comments. Share this story with your friends, and subscribe for more incredible stories of calm, courage, and discipline. By the time the plane emptied, every passenger had a story to tell. Phones were full of video clips. Hearts were full of awe. And the world outside the airport gates was about to learn one simple truth. Challenging Steven Seagal on a plane is a very, very bad idea. But respecting him and learning from the encounter, that was priceless.